It's time to get nerdy, y'all.
A little bit of gaming history for you.
Something relevant in gaming and discuss our opinions on it.
Should we kick it out of here, or should we kick-start it?
This is the part where you, the listeners, try to stump the hosts.
I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on a podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, lads and lasses of all ages, welcome to the show. It is Tuesday, January 30th, 2024, and it is time to get nerdy. Welcome to episode 295 of Two Nerds in a Pod, the nerdiest gaming podcast in the galaxy. I am Maction, and I have a fellow nerd, a mistress of both swords as well as starships.
It's true.
Co-host of the Swords and Starships podcast, Brittany here with me. Lom's out of town. Brittany kindly agreed to be here with us.
Woo!
Woo!
Here I am.
Indeed.
I am loud and proud and here.
And we are going to be your hosts for this next hour-long discussion of video games. Everything from news to history, lawsuits, and a little bit of everything in between.
Ooh, lawsuits.
So, yeah, I'm looking. But as always, we do tend to open up with a little bit of what we've been up to the past week. Any exciting triumphs, perhaps?
Let's see. Triumphs this past week. I recently did... so I'm a librarian, just FYI. Mm-hmm. I guess, okay, hang on, before the triumphs.
Yeah, you're right.
So, as you said, I am Brittany of the Swords and Starships podcast. Usually I co-host with my librarian coworker, Joshua. We talk about sci-fi, fantasy, and a little bit of everything else. If you think it's a library podcast, it kind of is, but we mostly just nerd out to sci-fi fantasy. As far as
delightful.
We have a ton of fun. If you like cackling, definitely tune in. There's lots of laughter and lots of snorts and giggles. Mm-hmm. But triumphs this past week. I recently hosted a adult crafternoon where people got to come and bring whatever crafts they wanted to the library and just work on them. Mm-hmm. And it was a ton of fun. Like somebody was knitting, somebody was wire wrapping jewelry, I was mending stuff. So it was it was a ton of fun. Not exactly nerdy, but it was fun.
Hey, I think the thing that gets lost a lot is it doesn't have to be esoteric to be nerdy. It just has to, I feel like you just have to love it.
Yeah.
That's the barometer.
Yeah. And it was fun because you could tell we were all kind of doing our thing, but we would get up and be like, oh, what are you working on? What is that? So it was a nice little social event. It was very feel good.
Awesome.
How about yourself?
Well, I didn't host a crafternoon, unfortunately. I've been pretty consumed with catching up with some past stuff at work, but I'm taking the W in that I finally today put the last of the back stuff all together. So from here on out, it's just pressing forward instead of looking back, which is a great feeling to have after several weeks of being, having just the stack. But it just kept getting smaller, which is amazing.
You slowly ate an elephant?
I did, one bite at a time. Ethically sourced, yes.
Good. I'm glad to hear that you are making progress, because that always feels nice.
It does. And, it felt really, really good. So, anyway, that's all I have to share. But, Brittany, do you have any projects coming up or things that you particularly want to shout out?
Well, as far as the podcast goes, I just finished editing our graphic novels episode. We do that every year. Joshua and I, we share some graphic novels. February's coming up. We're doing a lot of love-related episodes.
So fancy that.
Right. Don't let that turn you off, because it's going to be a lot of fun. It's like we have a mini podcast within a podcast called Swoons and Stabbings. They're making a comeback, and they are taking Edward Cullen to trial of whether he's creepy or romantic.
How do I get to be on the jury for that?
You'll just have to tune in, and you can always write in too.
It's true. I think I will preemptively write in as my opinions.
And then also Jim Preston from The Passengers, which I never saw that movie. But I guess he was somebody that they also took to trial. Oh. It was a spaceship. He woke somebody up when he wasn't supposed to, sort of thing.
Spoilers.
Yeah. But yes, you can always write into us at starships@coosbaylibrary.org. That's our email, so feel free. Or we're on Instagram too at Swords in Starships. So
One thing I have to shout out is I'm going to be around Valentine's. My spouse and I are going to do the most romantic thing ever, and that is go to a fantasy and sci-fi writers convention where they're going to present in the big room, in the main room at 4:00 on Thursday. It's going to be fantastic.
I am so jealous. That sounds like so much fun.
Oh, I'm so excited. But yeah, so, you will miss out, by you, I mean, dear listener, you shall miss out on an episode, I believe, because I'll be traveling for that. But,
I mean, you could take them on the road.
I do not have a good history of road-based podcast episodes.
Okay, more than fair.
Yeah.
More than fair.
But
I usually harass people when I'm out and about with my cell phone. I'm like, I ask them a question. That's also one of our episodes. It's like we ask random people a certain question. Maybe you could do something like that. But
okay.
But maybe not. You also need your break. You need to go on your date.
Well, to be fair, I mean, sci-fi and fantasy authors, the nerdiness will be strong there.
It will be real strong.
So maybe I'll have to do something. Okay, you've planted an idea. We'll see where it grows.
Oh, yeah. I have definitely harassed, like, a main person, like an announcer person at Oregon Library Association. I went and I talked to one of the main speakers. I was like, hey, would you rather be team merperson or vampire? And he was totally here for it.
Nice.
He chose merpeople.
Interesting choice.
Yes. It was fun. It's a fun episode. I harassed a bunch of librarians. It was great.
Well, this is not a podcast about harassment, Brittany.
What? This
is a podcast about video games.
I gotta go. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, we're here for the games today.
We are. And we like to start off by talking about some news. I am eternally out of the loop with respect to video game news. Lom is usually the one who tells me about the interesting things that are going on, and that was the role that I was hoping, the shoes you might fill this time.
Oh, Lord. Okay, here we go.
Really, tell me, what's new in video gaming?
I got my color-coded notes. So a couple months ago, there was an interesting article that came out. It's from Inverse.com. Cozy video games have nowhere to go but up. It is written by Ashley Barden, and it was written on December 17th, 2023. So she's talking about how cozy games, they kind of had their... there was Harvest Moon pre-pandemic, but then it was Animal Crossing that really took off during the pandemic. We all watched Tiger King and played Animal Crossing. And there still seems to be some resistance by some players to the idea of cozy games. Toxic masculinity.
Just a skosh.
just a little bit. But in her article, there's some things I'm going to quote. She's just kind of talking about how great cozy games can actually be for your brain and your emotional health, and sometimes even your physical health. And it's hey, give them a chance. They're actually really nice. So, for example, she said, a 2021 study found that a simple game like Flower, in which you play as the wind blowing through lush fields, which sounds great, is equally as effective at reducing blood pressure and self-reported stress as engaging in mindfulness meditation session. For your brain, that means less activity in your amygdala, an important zone for sensing danger. You'll also reduce your cortisol levels, which, when they peak, engage your flight or fight response. So... And I just really liked the article because I feel what was I watching? It wasn't E3. I was watching, I think it was just the yearly game awards with Brett, on YouTube. And they kind of got a cozy game slot, but it was really quick. And I was no, a bunch of players really like cozy games. And I feel it's really opening up a world, especially for women, for the queer folk, for people who maybe haven't grown up with first-person shooter games, and especially in a country that, we do deal with a lot of gun violence. Maybe we want something that's a little more cozy, and it doesn't have to be farming.
Okay.
I'm here to tell you, it doesn't have to be.
Let's not get wild and crazy here. Farming is a staple of cozy.
Yes.
As a Stardew Valley stan, I
love Stardew.
I very much appreciate the coziness of Stardew. And if you want to, get that blood pumping, go to the mines, go to the Skull Dungeon.
Yeah, Stardew's fun. Stardew has its place. Stardew got me through one of my dog surgeries, stayed up late. keeping an eye on my dog. So I love Stardew. I did write down a couple of cozy games
Please. What?
that are not the typical farming ones. And some of them, they border on cozy.
Okay.
So, like, I wrote down Unpacking. Have you played that one?
I haven't.
So, basically, it's like...
Hang on, let me take a leap at this.
Yes.
Are you unpacking things?
You sure are. No, literally, you're, like, in different rooms, and they're full of boxes, and you unpack the boxes, and you put everything in its place. And what I liked about that game was it's not just a game for, like, people who love to organize. It's also a story is happening as you unpack each room, because it's one girl's life as she grows up, and it's her overcoming like hard life circumstances. And I really like how quietly they told a story. And I was like, this is really nice.
Video games tell stories, but in a way that is unique to what video games can do. And so I'm always on the lookout for a game that tells a story, but in a way that only an interactive medium like a game could teach. And it sounds kind of like Unpacking fits the bill. I'm scribbling that down for later.
Very, very soothing. Have you played A Night in the Woods?
I have not. Tell me more.
That game, it borders on cozy because there is a murder that happens. But basically you play as like anthropomorphic animals. You're a cat named May. And it's really funny. Like, it's not a game for children. Like, there's cussing. It's very adult. But you're going through her coming back from college to her small town. And as you go through the story, you realize that May is actually having a mental health crisis. And she's very slowly but surely kind of telling her friends what's going on. And they're figuring out something is happening. Again, another example of a cozy game that, yes, it's kind of a slow playthrough, but the story is so good and it's actually interesting and has something interesting to say, especially about mental health. I highly recommend it, especially like in the fall, because it takes place in the fall. Like, she comes back during October, I think. Yeah. And there's like monsters and stuff. It's fun. And you're like, is there a monster or is May imagining it? It's good. It's really good. And then the last one I'll share, Spiritfarer. Do you know this one? Your eyes lit up a little bit.
But for anybody out there who doesn't, how would you describe it?
First, I have to say it's stunning. It's beautiful. The artwork is just... It's based on what happens after you die, you know? You become basically... Is it Karen? Charon. The ferryman. The boatman.
Yeah, one of the moons of Pluto.
Yes. Basically, you're taking that role while Karen goes on vacation for a little bit. And you're gathering these people, and you slowly realize that a lot of these people you actually knew in life, and you're gathering their souls as they die, and they hang out with you on your boat for a while. It's more like a ship. And you talk to them, and you kind of figure out what they enjoyed about their life and what they wish they had changed. Oh my God. I almost cried during that game. It was so good. I was like, I have so many feelings. Yeah. But like, there's many games and stuff that are fast paced. So it's not all one big slow movement. So just to give you an idea, like, cozy games, they're not all farming. Like, there's so many different flavors, and I want to see more of it. And I want to see more attention towards it, especially if there's studies being done of like, hey, it's actually really good for you, you know, potentially. In the article it said, you know, doing one thing too much is obviously not healthy. It's all about balance. But it is nice. Like, currently I'm playing Coral Island, and it is so nice to come home and like play on an island where it's like you're cleaning up the town. You know, it feels good. Yeah. Not Harvest Moon. What were we just talking about? Stardew. Stardew actually like inspired me to work harder on moving back out to the country. I was like, I really want to go and find a quiet place. And we've done it. Me and my husband, we moved out to the country, and I'm like tiny living my Stardew life. It's kind of nice. Amazing. So I have to say, like, video games can be inspiring and can, you know, affect real world change if you want it to. Yeah. So,
you know, it's easy to be cynical. Yeah. You know, I think that's one of the downsides of our very connected world. He said out onto the internet where other people were going to see this. You know, I do realize the slight irony of complaining about the interconnectedness as we're, but yeah, no, sometimes what you need something that makes you feel like you can make things better or make things different, so you don't feel faded into the same cycles. And I think that's a very powerful thing that video games can do for us.
Yeah, and you know, everybody chills in their own way. For some people it's Stardew, for some people it's Black Ops, whatever, you know. Yeah. And no shade on any type of game. I just wish that more people would give more attention to cozy games because people really are enjoying them and want to see more of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm in 100% agreement. More cozy now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm here for it. I'm here for the cozy. So that's my news. It was just the one article, and I highly recommend reading. It was great.
Fantastic. I appreciate it, and I'll try and put a link to the article in the
show notes
so that, y'all can have a read for yourselves and come to whatever conclusions, but at the very least be able to get on our level.
Yeah, and if you have differing opinions, I'm sure Mac would love to hear about it.
Yes, indeed. Just at me.
Yeah.
Well, if that's what's going on around us right now, we now like to turn to the past. Maybe some stuff that's particularly noteworthy or impactful. I was going to mention one video game that just fits perfectly from what you were saying about Flower, that specific game being particularly calming. Are you familiar with a 2018 video game, at least for the PC, called Celeste?
I am. I watched my husband play it. He said it was hard, so I knew I didn't want to do it. But it was very pretty. Like, I liked it, and he liked the storyline.
Oh, absolutely lovely. For Lam and I, it's one of our top games of all time.
Nice.
Certainly a top indie and on the list for just games in general. But for anybody who hasn't played it, you need to fix that as soon as possible because it's wonderful. Or even just watch it played because it can get a little hairy there.
It's a difficult platforming.
It is a difficult platformer, and you are... you're Madeline trying to get up a mountain, and the name of the mountain is Celeste.
Okay.
And so as you're going, there are revelations that you have about yourself as you explore these various areas. You meet friends, some new, some old, and the mountain is, as much of anything else, a spiritual journey of discovery. And you find out how Madeline is deeply struggling with her own anxiety and issues like that. There is one particular transition between two levels where you need to calm down. You're in a particularly difficult circumstance and you need to calm yourself down. And there is this visual representation of a feather on the wind, and you're trying to synchronize your breathing, get it together. I don't know if you saw that segment.
I don't think so, but that sounds like a meditation app.
It's it basically was, and as you were talking about Flower and this meditation, I will not kid you, in that moment during that time, I absolutely sort of zoned in and could feel my blood pressure dropping in that moment, because video games can absolutely do that to you.
Because you're immersed in Madeline's story. It's not like an app you just flip on. It's like, okay, breathe with the bubble. It's like, no, I've been with Madeline up this mountain. Yes, we're breathing with this feather.
We are going to do this together. Madeline is not in this alone.
Yeah,
you are
with
feel.
Madeline.
And it's absolutely fantastic. I could say more, but I did have one other thing, a slightly more technical thing of interest that was released back in 1998 called the Super Game Boy 2. Now, this was a plug-in for the Super Nintendo.
Okay, so that's what I grew up with the Super Nintendo.
Excellent. So in the Super Nintendo, of course, launched in late 1991.
Okay.
And then the Super Game Boy 1 came out in June of 94. And the point is that the Super Game Boy would allow you to play Game Boy cartridges via your Super Nintendo on your television screen. Okay. Sounds awesome. Of course, keep in mind that at the time, we're talking CRT televisions. Those CRTs, in case anybody doesn't remember, topped out at basically 40 inches. So smaller than the TV that I'm willing to bet you and anybody else listening to this has immediate access to.
Sit right in front of it.
And that was the big screen for us, y'all. The big screen. But there was just one problem. Just one. And that was that because of a technical difference between the way that the Game Boy and the Super Nintendo operated, specifically the crystals inside of the timing. Because, like, you have clocks, watches, have like a quartz movement. Well, there was that would cause these difference in the crystals that they used from the Game Boy to the Super Nintendo, would have the video game running at, number one, the music would come in higher pitched, but it was running about 3% faster on the Super Game Boy 1 and the Super Nintendo than it would on the Game Boy. So it sounded a little bit over-pitched. Your gameplay was faster, which in some cases, maybe that was a good thing, maybe that was a bad thing, but it was something that they would later on address in the Super Game Boy 2 in 1998. So you had to wait a whole 4 years before you got your hands on that upgrade.
I was 6 years old. Sorry.
I'm old.
My bad.
No, it's okay. It's okay. But, and as added insult to injury, they never released it in the United States. So we never got the sweet awesomeness. Of course, to be fair, that was pretty late in the Super Nintendo's life cycle. But sadly, we got shafted by Nintendo, so sad face.
Rude
indeed. Well, but that's not the only things that happened this week, but I think those are the cool things from this last week in years before, and that's history for you.
Nice. Historical events.
So now we move our way gently down the road to our topic of the week. A little something about video gaming that we just want to talk about. Or in this case, Brittany, what do you want to talk about in video games?
Okay, so this actually is perfect because you know how we're talking about the feather breathing.
Oh, yeah.
With the rise of AI, I really want AI and video games to have a baby and address the shortage of mental health care in this country. I know that sounds weird, but it's like, okay, so like mental health, getting access to it, especially rural Oregon, it's rough.
Very hard.
It's very hard. And I feel like, have you played around with ChatGPT?
I have.
Okay. I have also played around with it, and it's interesting. They have a counseling form on there. Like, you can ask questions, like a therapy session thing. And I'm like, okay, so if we can do this on a phone, can we incorporate this into video games somehow? Because as you said, with Celeste, it wasn't just you opening an app, breathing with a feather. It was you going through this journey with a character and breathing and feeling those good vibes. And I really wish there were video games that people could play that, like, even therapists or doctors could recommend. And I understand it's probably gonna be a clunky start, but I feel like we could get there.
I'm a little bit less, shall we say, hopeful. Maybe this is just Mac has all this, baggage, Mac living in the past. But I feel like I'm barely trusting enough of some people to be like, on somebody with a lot of training and with a lot of specialized experience and time. And I am so very skeptical of AI's ability to do important, precise, and especially pivotal tasks well, to feel like we would get to the point that we could trust it for advice or for even coping mechanisms. Now, don't get me wrong, even though we are talking about, try Googling your symptoms and for literally anything.
Right.
And
it's always cancer.
It's always cancer. and that was compiled by people, not by robots. And so, I think about that and I just feel like I don't know.
But it'd be so interesting if there were set video games that had been run through by multiple therapists of it's a program and it does this certain thing. And I understand only so much AI could go into that sort of thing, but maybe therapists / doctors could recommend a game to somebody that they feel like it would fit well.
Yeah. If I had any confidence, I would be 100% with you. I agree with all your premises. I don't think AI is the way to do it, but by gosh, yes, it would be fantastic. And I do I do not recommend turning your tabletop role-playing sessions into a form of therapy.
What?
I don't recommend it, but I know that there are actually therapists who use Dungeons & Dragons and games like it for guided therapy sessions.
Oh, how interesting.
And the thing that really comes to mind is that there is something powerful from either playing a video game or playing a role-playing game. Putting yourself into a role thing. You're familiar, I know, with The Princess Bride.
Love it.
I'm sure you're familiar with Mandy Patinkin's interview where he talked about killing Count Rugen.
Yeah.
And that, what for him in that moment was
so cathartic.
Slaying cancer for him that took his father. And
it hurt so bad.
It does. And I mean, I very much think that I can agree with where you're going here, that it's like, yes, video games can be helpful, especially engaged in wholly, and, and it would be lovely. I don't know. I'm sure there are some therapists that are pushing, but we need more therapist video gamers.
Yeah,
That's
that would be
what we
really
need.
cool.
Yeah.
That'd be super, because I definitely, it's going to have to be like a hybrid thing where it's like, people are mixed with the video games, but I said it before, I'll say it again. I just think it'd be so cool.
It would be so cool, and it definitely is something that should happen or needs to happen. So, yeah.
Therapy.
just
Breathe with a feather.
not with AI, says Mac. Regardless of my cynicism, don't let me stop you. I want to hear. Tell me about your experience. How exactly did it go?
No, it was basically like, I'm having a hard time getting along with this person that I see almost every day. And it was so fascinating. It was like, it's not a person, but it's like, I want to acknowledge that you feel bad and you're allowed to feel bad. I was like, that's an interesting start. Okay. And then it just kind of listed like, okay, it sounds like you need to set some boundaries and you need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. And like, here are a couple ideas of how you could do that and make sure you're keeping yourself busy. And it's like, and at the end, it's like, as always, I am not a therapist. If you feel like you are struggling, this is when you should talk to a therapist. It was fascinating.
Interesting.
And it happened all within 5 seconds of me asking a simple question of like what should I do? Like, what do you think? Because I just want to I want to mess around with it.
Yeah.
And it had like good answers.
And you walked away with some good coping mechanisms.
Yes. It was all stuff I was pretty much already doing, but for somebody who maybe hadn't been reading the books and doing research, coming up with that right off the bat in 5 seconds, fascinating and really helpful.
Okay.
I know you slid it to me on the slide. I'm gonna pull it out.
Okay.
You brought up a scary article.
I did, and
about AI making somebody very sad.
I did, and I mean,
and that's fair.
And this is you're in control here in this segment. This topic is where you want to go, and I'm not here to throw things. So
we're gonna throw hands.
This comes from Chloe Zhang. It was published March 30th, 2023.
Okay.
It was published in Vice. Content warning for
Yes.
suicide here. Man dies by suicide after talking with AI chatbot, according to his widow. This is a man in Belgium. A Belgian man? He's in Belgium.
Belgium. You want the M.
There we go. Got the M. So it sounds as though it was he went to a open source chatbot with, that was powered by ChatGPT-4. And that, according to his widow, she feels like those chat logs that she has access to from his electronic devices, very much she felt painted the picture that what he was being suggested was making things worse, not making things better.
Yeah. And it's hard to know without detail, but that's also where we talk about having more of a hybrid system where, yes, there is a human component, but maybe there is something like what I looked and asked where it's like, try this, and then maybe, I don't know how they do it, if it could flag somebody, if the chat was getting scary or concerning, it could actually flag a therapist, be like, this person is an actual human, can you come help? That would be cool. Po Buddy's nerfed.
Po Buddy's nerfed indeed. Good
Po
place.
Buddy's nerfed, but if we could work towards it, it'd be cool, because again, there just seems to be such a lack in the mental health resource section for everybody. Like, it's expensive. Finding a therapist is like dating. Like, even if they know how to do their job, sometimes you just don't vibe.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I don't have a therapist, and I'm sure it shows. But trying to share your problems is an exercise in vulnerability, and those things require trust. And yeah, if you don't vibe with somebody, if you don't have trust for them, then how are you going to make the improvements necessary? And so, I mean, yeah, I don't blame anybody for not sticking with a psychologist or psychiatrist that they don't vibe with.
And again, maybe that could be another point for using AI, because people are like, it's not a person. It might create a sort of safe space with the caveat of like, hey, this gets scary, we're getting a human. You know what I mean? But that could lead the door into some people actually looking for mental health resources, people who really need it.
Could do. I don't think you fully convinced me, Brittany. But like I said, I'm carrying a lot of baggage. So, mental health professionals, get in touch.
This would be a fascinating conversation to continue on with other people's opinions.
Yes, with qualified people's opinions.
Yes, please.
So, but...
What do you mean we don't know everything? What are you saying?
I wouldn't dare, Brittany. I wouldn't dare. But nonetheless... AI, of course, very popular in video gaming, and I suspect sooner rather than later we're probably going to see exactly this type of, or at least something close to this sort of use case being presented. I don't know if it'll be in an indie game or a AA title, probably not a AAA title, but, they're all busy with their calls of duties on or whatever. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't have to wait that long, Brittany, before we had something very similar to what you're describing in a AA title.
Yeah, and I hope it goes well.
Same here.
I hope it goes well. Like, I know I lean towards the positive. What is it called? Tragic optimism or hope punk is a genre. I know I lean towards that, where I'm like, I really hope the best happens, but what else am I gonna do?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, sure, cynicism has its place. It pokes holes in places where, things that need to be strengthened. But, isn't it cool just to imagine how good it could be?
I, too, want to see this world.
I should have been in charge of Jurassic Park. I just would have built the park bigger and scarier dinosaurs. And you see where this is going.
Yeah, I see where this is going.
This is why we have other people to ground us.
Yes, exactly. And sadly, we're here without ever cynical Lom. So here we are, ungrounded, floating away. But
sorry, we went talking for a long time. I think we need to change to our next topic, yeah?
You are right.
We're having so much fun. We're like, it's AI time.
So let's go ahead and move on. Speaking of being hopeful, we on the show, we always try and highlight a crowdfunding project that's trying to get off the ground. We call it Kick or Kickstart. Okay. And so it does involve a little bit of a pass-fail test here. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a link here for you to look at.
What if I told you I already did it?
Amazing.
What if I already looked at this thing that you're going to talk about because I was anxious?
For those of you who didn't have the link in advance, this is called Project Bubblegum, being made by Emerald City Games. Project Bubblegum is it's a beat 'em up. So it's in the style of your Double Dragon, of your Streets of Rage, and it is peopled by a bunch of, I guess we'd call them anthropomorphic animals, because they have a sort of very much Zootopia style stuff going on.
Kind of cutesy. A little cutesy.
I would say Project Bubblegum leans heavily into cutesy.
Yeah, they are pretty cute. I took a picture of the otter and I sent it to my husband. I was like, is this you?
Otters. Heck yes. They're trying to get it off of the ground, as with any Kickstarter project. Emerald City Games, based in Canada, I would describe it as a slightly larger sized studio than we traditionally see going to Kickstarter for a project.
Okay.
As well as with a slightly higher funding goal.
Okay.
They're looking for closer to $500,000, 500,000.
That's a chunk of change.
It is. Now, it's not without precedent for Kickstarter projects to get $500,000 or even more. But it is a little bit less usual for Kickstarter projects to ask for it, because if you don't make that, none of the money that people have pledged comes to you. It all doesn't get charged at all. So you wind up with nothing. You lose.
nothing.
Good day, sir.
Yes.
But it is certainly interesting. Now, at the moment, they've got 16 days to go, and it's 15,000 about in. If you were interested in this, and it does look nice. It looks good.
They only have 16 more days?
They have 16 more days, yeah.
That doesn't seem like a whole lot of time for a $500,000.
Yeah, no, it's probably not happening. But if you wanted to get in on it, you would be looking at a $19, that's 25 Canadian, 19 US, starting point. That's the first tier of, pledging at which you would get a digital copy of the game, a key for redeeming on Steam, for example. And that is supposedly going to be delivered in December of 2024. That's December of this year. So
The end of this year?
yeah, the end of this year. So we're only talking, 11 months away. So
I'm giving you my cynical eyes right
yes,
now. Like,
yes.
I
All
don't
right.
know.
All right, Brittany, be cynical. Tell
I'm
me,
sorry.
what's your take on this? You've had a chance to look it over.
I did.
What do you think?
All right, I took some notes. I like the character design.
Oh, sure. It's definitely winsome.
I just don't feel like, and again, I didn't watch any videos per se. I wish, and maybe they do have it, and I just didn't get a chance. I wish there was I wish I could just play a little bit, but right now, just looking at it.
You mean like a playable demo or something?
Do they have that yet? No?
No.
Oh, well, no. 16 days, $500,000, no demo? Too much pressure. Anywho, no. It doesn't feel unique enough to me. Like right now, it kind of reminds me of like Splatoon or Super Smash Brothers. Like there's that co-op element that's happening, and like that's always fun. And you always need different dressings for co-op games. Like different dressings get to different people.
Yeah.
But to me, like I need something humorous, or I need something really unique for a co-op. Like oh god, now I don't even have it. I'm like, there was this game, my brain keeps calling it Trash Nights. It's not Trash Nights.
Castle Crashers.
Thank you. There's an
problem.
ash in there. Castle Crashers, because that was like, it's a co-op. It's really funny. It was absurd. I was here for it. This, I said I was here for cozy, and I am. I like the cute things, but I feel like it's just not unique enough for me to be that interested. And other people are allowed to have their opinions. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I definitely am coming from similar directions as you. I have basically a rule that says I will say kick it out of here instead of kickstart it. If you don't have a playable demo as a part of your Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Because all the fancy renders in the world are one thing, but you have to prove you can actually deliver a product, and a playable demo will do that.
Yeah.
And this, in spite of, in the video, the guy does talk about they had a demo that people played at a gaming convention where they did not secure, like, big publishers at it. It was at Gamescom, I think. But it's wild to me because there does exist a demo that is playable, that they played, that they let people play at this convention, but yet it is not anywhere here in this Kickstarter project.
Yeah.
And if you're far enough along that you're going to be able to deliver the goods in 11 months, that playable demo had better be able to give us a slice of life. So, I mean, like, without that, I don't even believe you're going to not only meet your funding goals, I don't think you're going to meet your time goals if you can't show me
That's
that
promising a
you've got
lot.
it. I know.
A lot.
It's a lot of pressure. And I mean, obviously, I'm just some dude on the internet. What do I know? But I will say that this was disappointing for that.
Full of opinions is what we are.
We are full of opinions. Long on thought, short on fact is what I am.
We're going by what we can see, which is what they've given us.
That's right. And the renders look fantastic.
Yeah, I love the artwork. It's really cool. But I'm like, then make a graphic novel.
So no disrespect to the hard work of these people, the people in the
Right.
studio who've done it. We think you made something that looked great and looked nice. And we want the success of everybody. But for me, playable demo or it's a kick. And, maybe come back in a little bit more when you've got that demo ready for us to try.
Yeah.
And we'll have a conversation. But until
Yeah.
then, kick for me.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. Again, not unique enough. Just like watching it, I'm like, it's not funny. I need something to make me laugh. Personal preference.
Well, I think I might have something to make you laugh, Brittany.
Okay, I'm ready.
We have what we like to call Nerd Flex.
Okay.
It is a series of listeners submitted trivia questions. And I would like to pass those to you on these neat 3x5 cards. If you wouldn't mind selecting one and reading the first. Lovely. Who's this one from?
Trent?
Trent. All right.
I was like, hopefully.
What is it? Let's see.
From Trent. Which of the following is the first Pokemon? Is it A, Bulbasaur, B, Rhydon? C, Mew, or D, Arceus?
Okay. So
I didn't grow up with Pokemon.
all right. So this is well. Let me tell you my thought process, and maybe you can maybe some. I don't know anything about Arceus. What I do know is that it's the name of a recently released Pokemon game. So I have no idea about that.
Okay.
I do know that Mew is Pokemon number 151, right after Mewtwo in the original game. And they say in lore that he's the first Pokemon, which is interesting. And then I know that Bulbasaur is entry number 1 in the Pokedex. So depending upon how we define first, either Bulbasaur or Mew fit the bill. Now, I don't think about Rhydon, but there's not like an A and C option, or there isn't both a Mew and Bulbasaur option, is there?
It's a pick one.
It's a pick one. Well, I will say I would side with lore and say Mew is the first Pokemon. But obviously, I've already expressed my thoughts, so I think this is a trick question.
Do I also get to guess?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's Bulbasaur.
It's Bulbasaur. Okay.
I don't know the answer, but that's what I'm saying. It's Bulbasaur.
Okay, sweet. Bulbasaur for you, Mew for me. Flip that card over. What's the answer?
All are correct?
Trickety.
Wait, why?
Question. Yeah, I don't know why Arceus is a first Pokemon, and I don't know why Rhydon would be. Maybe Rhydon was the first one designed, because Rhydon was a Pokemon in the first Pokemon game. I could buy that, but no idea why Arceus or Arceus or whatever would be the first one. So.
I watched Digimon. That's what I watched.
Oh, Digimon. I remember that vaguely, but I remember that.
I really want to watch the new Pokemon show that's out on Netflix. That's like, again, it's cozy. It's like the Pokemon come and stay at a hotel.
Pokemon Hotel, you say?
Yeah. Have you heard of it?
No.
I'm so excited because it looks like stop motion.
Huh.
Yeah, I'll report back once I watch it.
Please do. Well, we have our next question.
I'm ready.
This runs from TQ Loudly. So, thanks, Chase. The question is, what is the name of the scamp merchant in the Elder Scrolls Morrowind? That's Elder Scrolls 3. Oh, I see that face.
Play it. But you know who did?
Are you going to phone a friend? Now, normally, Lom makes a thing to say, we don't phone a friend here, but for
Lom's
you,
not here, is he?
That's right. New
I'm
rules.
taking over.
A, crabber, B, creeper, C, reacher, or D, dealer. Now, I'm pretty confident that the answer is B.
Hey, so right now I'm podcasting, and there is a question that I don't know the answer to, but you might.
Okay.
What is the name of the scamp merchant in Elder Scrolls Morrowind? And it's a multiple choice. Do you know it, or do you want me to read the possible answers?
I mean, multiple choice. I forget his name.
Okay, so it's A, Crabber, B, Creeper, C, Reacher, or D, Dealer?
I think it's Creeper, but I don't remember.
Okay. All right, can we look at the answer?
Absolutely.
Okay. I've never played the game, so I was like, I'm going to call Brett.
It is
It's
a
a
classic,
classic.
Brett. You're 100% right.
I told him, I was like, if I don't know, I'm going to phone a friend and it's going to be Brett.
B is the correct answer. Creeper.
All right.
Thanks, Brett.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Bye.
Bye.
Fantastic to have him on call.
I was like, I'm getting Brett. Mom's not here. I'm going rogue. Oh, it's my
All
turn.
right.
From Kamen Rider? Corn?
Kamen Rider. I think that's like a Japanese proto Power Ranger or something. Like it's one of those Sentai shows or whatever.
Sure. It's from that person. Love to have you on the show. Thanks for the question. Excluding MMOs, what was the last mainline fantasy final game where you could name the protagonist?
Okay. So I've never played any of the MMO Final Fantasy games.
Me either.
Oh, did you play any of the non-MMO Final Fantasy games?
No, I played none of them. I played Kingdom Hearts.
Hey, solid choice. The lore's way too deep for me.
Oh, it got so.
Yeah. You know what? We can't
was
go
a
there
mess.
just yet. We've only got an hour show. We can't go into the
We can't
lore.
go into there.
Um,
So it's either going to be 8, 9, 10, or 12.
okay, I haven't played 12, but I have played 8, 9, and 10. And you could name your character differently in 8. You could in 7. You could in 9. And you could in 10. And so I don't know about 12, but I'm going to guess 10 is the last one.
Sounds great.
Yep.
I'll go with that too.
Go with it? Okay.
I'm gonna follow you blindly. Sounds great. It is. It's 10.
Yes!
Way to rock.
All right, so that is 3 questions, 3 victories between the two of us and Brett.
I was like, I don't know how this part of the show is gonna go.
I think it's gone fantastic, Brittany. One last thing, and that is that this is episode 295 is what we call a sound test episode. And so they're always sending in these questions to us, these
okay.
trivia questions. But we sometimes pick up the gauntlet and throw it back at them.
Ooh, I like that.
With a mystery sound from somewhere, somewhen, somehow. in
What's that
video games.
sound?
What's that sound?
We play that game.
Yes, it's a fantastic game. Now, I was delighted when I heard your guys' first What's That Sound episode. I was just like, oh, somebody else does it too.
It's a fun game.
It is. So we're going to see how we do. This is for them.
Okay.
So, but good luck. You'll need it. And remember, get in touch with us wherever. Use the hashtag soundtest and reference this episode 295 to let us know which one you're guessing. And if you're the first one to correctly identify it, there will be a prize handcrafted lovingly by me.
Ooh.
Well, Brittany, thank you for going on that journey with me. Can I take you on one more journey?
Sure.
A journey into the wild world. Oh, what are we kidding? The dull, boring world of legalese.
Oh, okay. I'm ready.
All right. So, obviously, Pal World is a bit of a thing right now. Having a moment, if we will.
Yes.
Is it having a moment in your house?
Oh, yes, it is.
Well, one of the things that's interesting, of course, is it bears, shall we say, resemblance to Pokemon.
Yes.
It's-
With guns.
With guns is how they describe it. Well, I just want to put out there, because we're going to hear a lot of talk about people saying that the Pokemon Company, which is, a subsidiary of Nintendo, is gonna come for Pal World.
Yeah.
And they quite probably will. But I think it's important to stress that they don't have to. There is no legal precedent for losing intellectual property rights from letting fan games and mods do their thing. Does Nintendo have the legal right to stop them if they feel it's intellectual property infringement? Yes. Do they have the obligation to do so? No. So here's the base. Intellectual property rights are the rights afforded to you after having created something, the right to copy, distribute, adapt, display, and perform as you see fit. And there are a bunch of general protections for various types of things. Like, for example, these microphones that we're talking into right now. These microphones are covered by a probably hardware patent, and that has a lifespan of 20 years. After that expires, then you and I are welcome to take this now 20-year-old technology and reproduce it ourselves. We don't owe anybody nothing, because that's the way hardware patents work. Stardew Valley, a game that we both love, is a video game, and it is covered by copyright. Those things expire 95 years from production or 120 years from creation. 95 years from publication or 120 years from creation, whichever comes first.
Kind of like Winnie the Pooh, just... Okay.
Exactly. And now the source code of the video game itself.
They're just checking the room.
Okay. Now, the source code itself is essentially considered to be equivalent to a literary work. That's how they subgenre it, if you will. And the gameplay is considered to be kind of protected like a film. So, much in the same way that a film would be protected, if you're copying, say, the assets from a game, that would probably be looked at if you were copying it over. Even if you didn't take the source code, the film itself, the look, the style, very much could be could be a copyright issue. And they would treat the gameplay like a film. They would treat the actual source code like treat the actual source code like a book. So if you had copied and pasted that source code into your thing, they'd treat it just as if you had copied and pasted. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
Right.
Type thing. And then mechanics, themes, and genres are not copyrightable, period. Dungeons and Dragons was not able to get away with suing people for publishing games that had similar dice mechanics, similar things. They tried to go for stat blocks of monsters. That was a no-go, but they still tried. And all those sorts of things. So and then the last thing is something like Pokemon, or Swords and Starships, or Two Nerds in a Pod. It's there's a trademark. Those come in 10-year blocks if you've got them, and you can renew them as many times as you want, as you care to do so.
Okay.
So, when somebody makes a fan game, Brittany, you are brilliant. You've made a game.
Okay.
Yes. Go with me on this journey. Yes.
Yes,
made
and
this game. Yes, and so long as and I make a fan game. I love your work so much. I make my own twist on it. Okay. And so long as I haven't taken the code and didn't just rip the story type of a thing, as long as I didn't take those things wholesale, then, and I didn't copy the assets, then the only thing that can be in danger, because I haven't copied anything from you, I've just copied the style. I've just got the genre nailed down. I've got these things, the spirit of things. Spirit's not copyrightable.
Okay.
Yeah, so the only thing that's really in danger is if maybe I name my second video, my name Swords and Starships 2, The Revenge, and it winds up being, being popular or whatever. That could be a trademark problem.
You get that meme of all the Spider-Mans pointing at each other?
Ooh, yeah. Finger guns. A good example, a fan game, Pokemon Uranium. That was one that it was great, a fantastic fan game, ROM hack, beautiful. It got taken down. They trademarked, whatever exact mechanism they use. These companies mostly use just big, scary, hey, we're going to come at you with our legal department if you don't do what we want. And that's what they do. Most of them never get there because you're facing down the barrel of a huge legal bill. So why would you ever challenge it?
So it works because it's not Pokemon, it's pals.
So, and that's the thing. Let's say, for example, what have they copied from Pokemon?
Yeah, do you have
You've
cute
played
monsters?
It. I haven't. So, riddle me this. Have you ever played the old game? It's called Dragon Quest, I want to say.
I have not played Dragon Quest. But I mean, the idea of cute monsters is not unique,
Yeah, no, not at all.
My brain keeps pulling up the Junimos from Stardew Valley. They're cute little monsters, but...
I'm just going to show you this picture. It's only going to show a few of them up here in the top.
Okay.
Dragon Quest was a video game back in the 80s.
Oh, okay.
And you can absolutely see some
similarities. Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot more where that came from. That's just 8 right there. The similarities were pretty striking.
Yeah.
So I'm not here to make a sort of, nobody's got new or original thoughts. But come on, you guys. These are not the first times. These are not the first things. And so long as those aspects of the source code or the actual assets aren't pulled, there's no evidence, at least so far as I'm aware, that Palworld has copied anything other than the genre and the general styling and as you said, the spirit of it all.
Yeah.
Now, is that going to stop the Pokemon Company from doing that? Probably not. They're probably going to, put Palworld on the other side of the barrel and see who blinks first. But what I really want to throw out there, and I apologize, Brittany, I've brought you along on this excuse for me to rant. What I want to put out there is that there are going to be a lot of people who are going to engage in some apologetics, and they're going to be like, well, Pokemon has to do this or else they'll lose the cup. Nope, that's never happened. Never happened in the history of copyright. There is no lawsuit. There is no whatever. People like to say it, but there is no evidence that has ever happened. Well, they have to do it because they have to protect their trademark. Nintendo themselves will claim that they have to police their trademark, is what they call it. And that's a sort of sleight of hand that they do, because there is technically a way that you can lose a trademark called basically called lack of trademark policing.
Okay.
But it's one of those things that it's a term of it's a legal term rather than a common term. So you would think, you're not keeping people off of your trademark. That's lack of policing your trademark. But it has nothing to do with that. It has to do when you make your what's your thing?
Smell-o-vision.
Smell-o-vision. You create Smell-o-vision, you've got the stuff for it, and you sub-license that to somebody else, and they absolutely destroy the trademark by producing substandard products. But
not the Smell-o-vision.
Not the Smell-o-vision. But you are considered to have abandoned your trademark if you did not do any quality control over your trademark. That is literally the only way you lose intellectual property rights, and it's only trademark, by not keeping a close eye on your stuff. That is it. That is all that exists in any of the thing. So when somebody is like, well, Nintendo, they have to take it down. They have to threaten to sue you because otherwise they won't be able to make Pokemon games anymore. That is lies. It's lies that Nintendo likes to tell you because it makes them look like, oh, I'm so sorry. We have to do this. Please buy our games. Okay, thanks. But it's lies, damn lies, and half-truths at best. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Alternative truths.
Alternative
facts.
Don't get me started. But for anybody out there who's listening, all 2 of you who are still paying attention, Brett, I see you. Thanks for the assist, and thanks for listening. But it really is one of those things where it's like people will say it, that does not exist. I'm not even a lawyer. It's not the law. It's just some legalese.
Nice. Good job.
Oh, thank you.
Way to put on your lawyer hat for like a hot minute.
A hot minute, yeah. Well, this would not be complete if we did not share the cool, nerdy things, Brittany, that we are into.
It's true.
So what do you want to hype, if anything?
Just so you know, Coos Bay Public Library, we do rent out video games. And when I say rent, I don't mean like for money. Like we loan. We loan games.
Mm-hmm.
PS2 through PS5. I keep wanting to say we don't have Wii games. We have Switch games, and then we have Xbox One games.
Oh.
So I highly recommend putting them on hold because they're out and about all the time, especially the Switch games, and you get to check them out for 3 weeks at a time. If nobody else has it on hold, you could potentially have it up to 9 weeks.
This, for the record, is how I experienced Shadow of the Colossus.
Nice.
So,
the new one?
Oh no, the old one.
The old
for
one.
PS2, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
You got to do the nostalgia route.
I did.
Love it.
So yeah, and if you are not in, coastal Oregon to do that here, check your own library. There may be video games available for there if you want to get that fix.
Yeah, I mean, we started our video game collection from my collection.
That's your collection
The
started?
PS2.
Oh my gosh.
In which somebody had gifted me a bunch of PS2s as well because they had gotten rid of their console. So I had a plethora of PS2 games, and I said, let's do
Brittany,
it.
What is a plethora?
A mass, a big amount.
Yes.
But yeah, so because one of the other librarians, she's like, man, I wish we could do video games. And I said, why not?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Because at that time, I think I had also not been playing my PS2. I think I had a PS4. And I was like, let's do it. People still have it. Like, they still have their older consoles.
Thank you, Brittany, for your contribution to video gaming.
And somebody else, another patron came in and donated even more.
Heck yeah.
It was so cool. Because we move on to newer, better consoles. And
true.
people still have their plethora of games.
I do.
So it was really cool to see people come donate that. And people, they still check them out all the time.
Awesome. As they deserve to be loved and played.
Yes.
Video games are art, people.
And when I say older games, we also have PS5 and Switch. So we do keep them updated as they become a little bit less expensive. But yeah, it's very, very cool. And we also have board games. So if you're a video gamer, you might be a board gamer. We have those too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I will just say that I have been watching Dimension 20's A Court of Fae and Flowers.
I keep hearing that name.
Uh-huh.
What is it?
Which one?
The Fae and Flowers? Is this a YouTube channel?
No, so Dimension 20 used to be College Humor.
Okay.
When they restructured, they became Dropout TV.
Okay.
And Dimension 20 winds up being their tabletop role-playing game subgroup. And each season tends to be new things. Often it's DM'd by Brennan Lee Mulligan with the same cast. This particular one, Court of Fae and Flowers, DM'd by Abria Iyengar. Fantastic, and it's just very enjoyable.
Okay.
So it's... Yeah.
I've heard Fae and Flowers like a couple times in the past couple days, so thank you for explaining. I'm like, why do I keep hearing this? Okay, got it. Way to spread the nerdiness.
Yeah.
We're here for it.
That's what we do here at Two Nerds. Well, I think that is all the time that we have today.
Yeah.
Anything you want to say on the way out? Otherwise, I'll take us.
If you enjoyed hearing me scream, laugh, cackle, come check us out at Swords and Starships. We are under the umbrella of Coos Bay Public Library.
Nice.
So, yeah, thank you so much for having me on here. This was a ton of fun.
Thanks for being here, Brittany, and thanks to all of you for listening. Be sure to catch us, twitch.tv/2nerds in a pod, when we do the live show most Tuesdays. And yeah, until we see you next time, be excellent to each other and keep it nerdy. Bye.
Bye.